The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for attending the public workshop for the Little Ringling PD&E Study. Before we get started tonight, our project manager, Patrick Bateman, will share a few words. Patrick, whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Good evening. The Florida Department of Transportation, or FDOT, welcomes you to the public workshop for the Little Ringling Project Development and Environment, or PD&E Study. My name is Patrick Bateman. I am the FDOT Project Manager for the study. Thank you for attending this live virtual event. The purpose of this meeting is to provide you the opportunity to ask questions and offer comments about proposed improvements along John Ringling Boulevard, also known as State Road 789, from Bird Key Drive to Sarasota Harbor West in Sarasota County. FDOT representatives, as well as members of the consultant project team, are available tonight to answer your questions. The live question and answer portion is for informal questions only. Questions asked will not be considered comments for the formal record. You will need to make a comment through the project website by mail or by email by April 21st, 2022, if you would like your comments included in the formal workshop record. Additional information is included in the project handout and the project video we will play shortly. The public workshop is using both an in-person and online format. The in-person meeting was held April 5th, 2022. All workshop materials detailing and documenting project alternatives and analysis, such as the project video and the informational graphics, have been available to the public online since March 29th, 2022. At this time, we will play the project video. The project video can also be viewed on the project website listed on the handout. Afterwards, project team members will be available to answer your questions. If you'd like to ask a question, send a message in the question pane of the online meeting. Following the video, we will call your name in the order received. We will now play the video.
We will now go ahead and call upon those attending online who have signed up to speak. The first person with their hand raised is Norris Carroll. Please unmute yourself and ask your question. And there is no current other person in line, so if you would like to leave a comment, please raise your hand or send us a message in the question box. Thanks so much.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you very much for informing us as to future plans for this bridge. I am a resident of Plymouth Harbor, and one of my concerns is the difficulty we have of turning left at our front door when we come across the bridge from the main part of Sarasota. The traffic is very heavy. I'm thinking it would be helpful if a light were installed there, and this light were triggered by a car in the far left lane turning left into the property, or by a passenger getting off of the trolley who needs to cross the 4 lanes of traffic to enter our property. I would hope that the committee would consider this safety concern in future plans. Thank you.
I'm going to let our project development manager, OJ, address your concerns concerning the access control, the full meeting opening in front of the Plymouth Harbor. OJ?
Thank you, Patrick.
Pull your mic down.
Sorry. As Patrick said, I'm Richard Ojoy, the project development manager. What we're going to look at, we do what we call intersection control evaluations, and it is a new process is developed by the department that evaluates the full median openings, and we go through a series of analysis that determines the most suitable. Depending on the volumes, it could be anywhere from a traffic signal to a roundabout to potentially directional median opening. It just depends on the analysis, and we are just starting in this project, and we'll be undertaking that as we move along so that we can let the results be known probably when we go to the next public forum.
And to add, we do intend on adding pedestrian crosswalks to Coon Key somewhere, but that will be part of the evaluation that occurs after the workshop.
Did that answer your question, Mr. Carroll, or do you have any follow-ups that you'd like to ask?
No, this is, I think, a fairly urgent matter. And elderly people with strollers and canes who've gone over to the main part of the city on the trolley find it exceedingly difficult to cross the lanes, because right now the traffic's traveling pretty quickly, and you have to wait a long time to get a gap to cross, and a lot of our residents aren't that swift at crossing the 4 lanes of traffic.
No, sir. I'm just going to interject one last time, is that we will look at the pedestrian needs also, and it can be considered as part of the traffic control we do there, and if it looks like there is a need for it, we can call out specific pedestrian signals too if the requirements are needed, and we will be evaluating that also.
And that's something that we will work with our traffic operations department to determine if that can be installed. The pedestrian crosswalk can be installed sooner than waiting for the bridge project to receive funding.
That would be helpful, because I feel it's a disaster about to happen. So I would have this moved up to an urgent concern, if that's at all possible. Thank you.
Thank you for your input.
Okay, I apologize. I was unmuted. So we will be calling upon Paul Kaufman to speak. Please unmute yourself and ask your question. And so you can prepare. The next speaker will be Wayne Estes.
Oh, good evening, folks. Can you hear me? Okay. And good evening, Patrick. And first, from Paul Kaufman from Sarasota Harbor East. And I would like to thank you and your team for always being open. I can't think of another state in the union where you can actually talk to a project manager and they listen. It's very rare. So thank you. And we only have one comment, and that's, if you notice in the Twin Bridge design, it sort of retains the ability at our entrance, a large median where you can literally sit. If you want to go left into town, perpendicular to the road, and you can look out your side window to see the traffic coming from St. Armand's. When you go to the single bridge concept, that narrows down quite a bit, and you can still see the left turn lanes either direction coming into our property. But when you get out there, you'll no longer have that little box to sit in perpendicular. So is it possible to keep or start the divergence of the two roadways earlier so that median is wider as it passes our entrance and retains that box to sit in if you're trying to go into town from our place, making a left turn? Am I making any sense?
Yes, and that's something that our roadway designer at Hardesty, the consultant, will answer.
Yeah, and we do thank you for incorporating all these deceleration lanes. I think that's a huge step forward in safety on that. Considering the through traffic comes through at 50 miles an hour. Have you folks also thought about any kind of a speed camera set up there? I mean, the police have somebody in our parking lot about every 10 minutes going westbound into the St. Armand's area. That's it.
Yeah, I was going to wonder, do we want to let Rob answer the first question about the median and the design, or I'll go ahead? Okay. All right. Yes, sir. On speed cameras, that's enforcement at a local level, but we're more than happy to reach out to the police department, and if they want to use that type of enforcement in that area, we'd be happy to provide some kind of, means and pedestal in order for them to provide that enforcement on there, but we can add that to the list as far as checking.
Yeah, with the number of cars going through there and being ticketed currently, you might be able to pay for your bridge in a couple of years.
I was going to say, I wish we could get that money, but it stays local.
Thank you, and I'm glad to know that you do have an interface with the local people too. That's a
Yes,
big
sir.
plus. Thank you.
And Rob, do you want to go ahead and speak to the geometry or the median?
Yeah, so while we're going to try to make that median as wide as we can, there's a lot of restricted space in there, and there are standards for how quickly you can transition over. So we're kind of almost maximizing that now, but yeah, maybe we'll right now we're still in the kind of study stage, and we're going to start really doing the design, after the completion of this phase of the study. So I think right now it's like a 22-foot median. So there will be kind of an ability for a vehicle to kind of pop in there, but yeah, we're going to keep on looking at ways to kind of expand that as much as we can, but it's really tight in this area.
Yes, I can't believe how tight it is. I'm just also curious how this is going to interface with the overall picture, because right now there's no parking on South Lido Beach or Lido Beach on the weekends, and that's why they started this trolley from downtown. And I'm anticipating a huge growth of traffic along with the population growth. And I don't know what you're going to do at the end of Coon Key, because you're going to be piling in, I think, a lot of these trolley buses and everything else in probably 10 years. I don't know how you're going to get all that. I don't know where it's going to go when it gets to the Undercoon Key on that little causeway there as it hits St. Armand's. Pushing a lot of bus traffic through there in addition to the normal traffic is going to be, well, it's going to be challenging for you guys. But after the work I saw you do at the intersection of University and I-75 and the imagination that was displayed, I'm sure you'll be able to solve that. Thank you.
Thank you for your input.
We will now call upon Wayne Estes. Please unmute yourself and ask your question. And so you have time to prepare. Our next speaker would be Linda Haller-Sloan.
Thank you for hearing from me. I'm a resident of Sarasota Harbor West, and all of us in this area are, we've become very accustomed to road construction with traffic circles and such being built. So we can assume this will take a while to complete whatever project gets built. But do you have, I assume that at least 2 lanes will be closed for an extended period of time. Is there any idea how long there would be 2 lanes closed?
Our plan is to keep 2 lanes open in both directions the entire project.
That is outstanding news. Thank you.
Did you have any other questions?
No, that's it. If you tell me there's going to be 4 lanes open for the majority of the time, that is the best news I've heard all day. Thank you.
Welcome.
We will now call upon Linda Haller-Sloan to speak. Please unmute yourself and ask your question. And so you have time to prepare. Our next speaker will be Norman Dumaine.
Hi, good evening. My name is Linda Haller-Sloan, and I'm here with my husband, Jack Sloan. We are residents downtown close to the Gulfstream Avenue roundabout, and we frequently go to St. Armand Circle, Lido Key, and Longboat Key as well. I think one of our questions is partially answered by the prior answer. So for the construction, you were saying that you expect all 4 lanes to be open in both directions. Is that correct?
Both lanes in both directions, yes. 4 lanes total, yeah.
4 lanes total, right? Okay. So do you expect any impact on traffic or traffic backups by the Gulfstream Avenue roundabout?
It will be a construction zone, so there will need to be cones set up, temporary shifts, probably speed limit reductions, that type of interruptions to traffic, but keeping the lanes open. So the Gulfstream is a very different type of project with, that's complicated, but we don't expect to really interfere with traffic while the bridge gets constructed.
Okay, thank you. We have 2 other questions. When is the expected start date of the project, and how long will it take? And then are you planning to increase the height of the bridge? Thank you.
Right now, the project is not funded for construction, but we are working on that. We hope to start in 2025. The height of the bridge, we are proposing to raise it by 12 feet in the center. And for the duration of construction, I will hand that off to Jim, the consultant project manager with Hardesty in Hanover.
Excuse me, so on the height, you said, sir, that you're planning to raise it 12 feet higher?
Yes.
Okay.
The center. At the ends of the bridge, it would be 4 feet higher.
Okay, thank you. And then the project will go until when?
Jim?
They can't hear us.
Hey, Jim, I think you're muted right now.
I'm very sorry.
Oh, we heard that.
We're estimating probably somewhere around 3 years total construction time, probably 3.5 at the very worst case.
Okay, thank you. We appreciate it.
Thank you for your comments. We will go ahead and now call on Norman Dumaine, and there are no speakers after Norman. So if you would like to or if you'd like to make a comment or a question, make sure you have your hand raised or you put a question in the question box. Mr. Dumaine, you are now able to unmute yourself and ask your question.
Okay, are you able to hear me? Okay.
Yes.
I've studied your plans and designs, and I do appreciate all that you've done. I think I come at this from a very different kind of angle, and I do travel the bridge very, very frequently. And the project's called Little Ringling Bridge, and yet when I look at the plans and designs, I don't see a concept of a Little Ringling Bridge. It seems to be very different than what I see going over the Ringling Bridge. This is a really important gateway. And if you look at the Legacy Trail goes all the way from Venice down now into Sarasota. And we've got MIRT trails that are going to be making their way all the way to the beaches. It just seems to me that it's a very important gateway. And I would wonder if it wouldn't be important to look into something that's a little more aesthetic in terms of its design, in terms of its pleasingness. Something that really characterizes what the Legacy Trail should be like and what a scenic trail should be like. So I would just like to have it more in context with the kind of area, with the kind of bridge. You know, the Ringling Bridge is iconic for Sarasota. It's a hugely important emblem or symbol for the city. And I would hope that one could capitalize on that even as we go into the Little Ringling Bridge.
Now I will let OJ speak to this topic.
Yes, sir. The city of Sarasota, to beat you to it, we've been in discussions with them. As far as I believe they're providing us with a formal letter or request to look at the aesthetics of it, and that will begin the discussions. And I believe that they should be, depending on the outcome, should be received fairly favorably. Hopefully that answered your question. We will be looking at aesthetics, at least at the city's requesting that, so we'll be looking at that very hard in the near
Okay,
future.
thank you very much.
Work out the details.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. If there is anyone who has not spoken yet that would like to, please raise your hand or send a message in the comment box. Oh, we've got, I believe, Robbie, I just saw your name pop up very briefly. I'm not sure if that was a mishit. But otherwise, our project team will be available until 7 o'clock to answer any of the remaining questions that there might be. We will now call upon Robbie Langenfeld to speak. All right, you've been unmuted. You may now ask your question. You're now unmuted. If you're ready to ask your question, the team will be able to hear you. Mr. Langenfeld, were you interested in leaving or asking a question of the team? If you're having difficulties accessing the mic, you're more than welcome to put your question in the question box, and I can read it out that way, and the team can address it. If not, I'm going to move on to the next person who had their hand raised, since we're having some technical difficulties right now, and we can always come back. Alrighty, so we are going to move on to the next speaker, who will be Cindy Massengill. You have been unmuted. You may now ask your question.
Good evening, everybody, and appreciate this opportunity. I was just wondering if the project team could kind of speak from their expertise. What are the pros and cons of either the the twin model versus the single model? If they could just share from their expertise and perspective, how are you looking at both of those options?
So replicate the design that's currently out there. So the road widens, narrows, has median. The single bridge option, you put a shift in the road, and the new bridge is offset from where the existing bridges are. Having the twin bridge requires a temporary structure to be installed before construction of the new bridges can start, which is why that one's higher. As the single bridge, the construction starts in the median for the new bridge. So the single bridge is lower cost, and the twin bridge retains the twin bridge setup, and would probably be considered more aesthetic than the single bridge option. But that's the main differences.
Thank you.
Thank you. And now we're going to call upon Norman Dumaine. Please unmute yourself and ask your question. And so that you have time to prepare, our next speaker will be Marjorie Phillips. I unmuted. There we go.
Okay, I just wanted to take the moment to thank you so much for doing this Zoom meeting and presentation. It is very helpful to see what's happening, and I just appreciate it so much. Thank you.
Thank you for your attendance. I was able to get our question from Robbie Langenfeld. His question was, will the team identify items such as crosswalks, speed slows, etc., that can be taken care of before 2025?
Yes, in the previous question, we will look at things we can implement prior to as far as regards to safety. We will look at, sorry, I had my speaker up, but just to repeat myself, is that in an earlier question that was brought up, and yes, we will be looking at things that we could advance in regards to safety as far as crossings and looking at things like that.
Thanks, OJ. Our next speaker was going to be Marjorie Phillips. However, Ms. Phillips has put her hand down. If you would like to leave a question for the team in the chat, or if you would like to speak, please raise your hand again and I'll unmute you so that we're ready to go. While we wait to hear from Ms. Phillips, We will now have Miss Linda Holler-Sloan unmute herself and ask her question.
Thank you. I appreciated the question that was just asked about the pros and cons in the team's view of the two alternatives of the single bridge versus the span.
I believe you may have cut out Ms. Sloan. Ms. Sloan, you are still able to use the mic. You're more than welcome. You're unmuted. And if you're having some technical difficulties, you're more than welcome to send your question in the question panel.
Okay, thank you. I'll try again. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Oh, great. Thank you. I'm sorry. I didn't realize you couldn't hear me. I appreciated the question that was asked a few minutes ago about the two alternatives, the single span versus the twin bridges of the team and in their expertise, the pros and the cons. I was just wondering if there's a difference as well regarding safety between the two options. Thank you.
Not really. Just to touch on the item that was asked earlier, the median transition on Coon Key in front of the Sarasota Harbor East. There is a little bit difference in the width of the median at that point, which would affect the ability to make the two-stage left turn out of Sarasota Harbor East. But other than that, there really wouldn't be a difference.
Thank you.
Thank you. We will now call upon Marjorie Phillips. You are unmuted, and now you may ask your question.
So tonight here, what the FBI says it has now found, the suspect's weapons, equipment, the information they gathered, and questions. What was their motive? Who funded the operation, and how did
Ms. Phillips, we're having a hard time hearing you. Please make sure that you're unmuted on your end. If you're ready to speak, you'll see a green icon. And if you're self-muted, it'll show up red. For the time being, I'm going to move to the next person in line to ask a question. Ms. Phillips, we can come back to you shortly. Gary Olsen is the next speaker that we have on the list. Please unmute yourself and ask your question. And then so you can prepare, we do have Ms. Phillips next in line after that. Mr. Olsen, are you still present?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. I am a resident of Plymouth Harbor. We have been concerned for some time about the need for a stoplight. I have actually written up information for our security people. We were not sure who to direct this information to. I'd like to summarize that for you. There's a high-speed traffic problem coming from Adams Street all the way to the Bird Key stoplight. There's seldom any police surveillance of this area, resulting in severe abuse of the speed limits and safe driving. Bikers and pedestrians on the upgraded Mert Trail coming from both left and right are difficult to see and often do not stop, expecting drivers will see them. So there's no warning signs or mirrors or speed bumps or other deterrents to enhance safety. Activity on the Mert Trail has increased significantly since it was completed. The number of pedestrians and bikers moving to and from St. Armand's quite significant. Traffic from Harbor Village across the street struggles to turn to the east at all hours. Congestion often piles up at the turn lane into Plymouth Harbor, resulting in anxious drivers who desperately wait for a gap in the heavy traffic oncoming from St. Armand's so that they can get into Plymouth Harbor. Traffic turning into and leaving Plymouth Harbor has increased substantially in the last 3 years because of the construction of new buildings and many more personnel and residents now living here or coming into here. And that includes contractors as well and visitors in addition. It's dangerous and sometimes impossible for 2 cars to turn left into Plymouth Harbor from westbound John Ringling. There's not enough space for multiple cars to enter the driveway safely, especially if there's cross traffic on the interior road walkway in Plymouth Harbor. There's no safe place for an entire distance of 1 mile for pedestrians and bikers to cross the ultra busy John Ringling Boulevard between Adams Street and St. Armand's and the light at Bird Key Drive. At times, there is a blinding afternoon sun to the left, preventing people turning out of Plymouth Harbor from turning right or crossing the road. At times of the year, there's a blinding morning sun to the right, preventing visibility of the Mert Trail and those vehicles crossing John Ringling Boulevard to turn left. So we feel, and we've discussed this with a number of our people, we didn't know who to direct correspondence to. We feel there's a definite need for a stoplight here, both for Plymouth Harbor and for the condos across the street, and for all of the drivers trying to turn onto or off of John Ringling Parkway. I thank you very much for allowing me to state this information. I'm assuming that I can send a copy of this information to Mr. Bateman at the address that was listed, and I will forward that to you after after our executive board approves a letter going out to you.
Thank you.
Alrighty, so now we're going to call upon Miss Marjorie Phillips. Please unmute yourself and ask your question. Ms. Phillips, please please ensure that your microphone icon next to your name says that you are unmuted and it shows up green. If not, I can message you directly to make sure that we get your question. Is there anybody else who has not spoken that would like to speak? If so, please send us a message in the question box or raise your hand. Otherwise, our team will be available until 7 to answer any remaining questions. Ms. Phillips, I'm going to message you to make sure that we get your question in as well. As a reminder, our team is here until 7, so if there's anybody left in the audience that has a question and has not had an opportunity to speak with us, please feel free to put it in our question box or raise your hand and we'll call on you. Okay, so we did just have a question come through. Is there a different kind of funding required for speed bumps, et cetera, that could take place prior to 2025? This is a follow-up question from Mr. Langenfield.
Yes. Those are not within our domain for use on state roads because of such things as fire trucks and vehicles like that. No? Well, on St. Armand's we do. Okay. But not in general use because, yeah. So that would have to be something to be considered, but those are only done under extreme circumstances, like on the case with St. Armand's. And we would probably refrain from that along these roadways because of the, like I said, emergency vehicle access and stuff like that. However, since we've been put it in there in the chat, we will take a look at it.
Thanks, OJ.
You're welcome.
Mr. Langenfield just followed up with his question also included things like stoplights and things like that around Plymouth Harbor.
Yes, those we are investigating with our traffic ops folks. We are investigating those with our traffic operations folks to see what's suitable for the area. Whoever brought up the point, it is a good point about crossing and the ability to cross. So we are looking at that there's been revisions to the criteria that we use for different types of control treatment. So we're applying the newer criteria and we will be able to incorporate that into some short-term recommendations.
I did want to briefly follow up on my announcement from a couple minutes ago. Please note that any questions that were asked tonight will not be considered comments for the formal record. If you would like those to be included as part of the workshop record, you will need to make a comment through the project website by mail or by email by April 21st, 2022.
I would like to encourage everybody with the concerns for the crossings and the traffic signals, please make formal comments. It helps us in discussing these issues with our traffic operations folks. Thank you very much.
We have now reached the end of the meeting. Is there anyone who has not spoken who would like to speak? Once again, questions asked tonight will not be considered comments for the formal record. You will need to make a comment through the project website, by mail, or by email by April 21st, 2022. If you would like your comments included in the formal workshop record. Thank you for attending this public workshop and for providing your input into this project. Have a good